Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I hope you're all doing well today. I'm doing okay. I was a little bit doom and gloom at work, but I was excited to get home and film a video. And I had to trudge through the wind and the cold and the snow because it's been freezing this week, and my apartment has been freezing too. Like, it's legally supposed to be 21 degrees Celsius. It's 13 degrees Celsius right now. So my landlord sent over a few space heaters, and when I got home, the space heaters had arrived, and I was so excited to sit by the hearth and warm my cold little fingers. So I plugged it in, and it was lovely. 30 seconds of beautiful, warm heat, just like warming me to my core, and then the lights go out. Yes, indeed, I flipped the breaker by running the space heater. So the breaker is not in my unit. I had to essentially break and enter into my own house, and this involved many different trials. Okay, this was a half-hour digression out of my day, and it involved a key ring with 6 different keys on it that I was fumbling around with in the cold, in the dark, and the breaker box, it was unlabeled. Okay, there were 2 rows because it's, oh my goodness. Anyway, I got it back up and running. That was not fun though, but you know what'll make me feel better? Doing a little bit of a love reading for you guys. And I feel like there's someone on your mind for sure. There's someone who I feel like you're not really in a romantic context with them right now, but I feel like you might have like a little bit of a crush, or maybe there was something going on between you guys, but it maybe fizzled out, or you're just not really seeing each other in that way now, but I feel like you still have very strong feelings for this person. And well, let's see, how are they feeling about you? Ooh, the Knight of Pentacles. Okay, this is an energy of being very still. This is someone who is just not moving. So I almost feel like this person, yeah, it's kind of like frozen in time in a sense of like the feelings that they had for you the last time they saw you. I get the sense that these are the exact same feelings that they have now. And maybe they shared these feelings with you, or maybe they kept it to themselves. But the sense I'm getting is this person just is not making a move. Yeah, and it could be just this feeling of maybe needing more time or just needing to scope things out. But I feel like there is a possibility of something in the future here with you guys. All right. Ooh, the Ace of Swords. Okay, so I feel like there is this sense of like a new beginning or something new. So like I mentioned, if this is someone you just kind of have a little bit of a crush on, or it could be someone you were seeing in the past, I feel like this next stage in your relationship is going to be something very new to you, of like you're going to relate to each other in a way that you weren't previously, where like I mentioned in the past, like there was this kind of almost feeling of stagnancy, or like things have just kind of been the same for a while, but now I get the sense that there's something new emerging, and it's almost like this breakthrough is what I'm getting, is like there's kind of a new thought that emerges, and I think it's on this other person's end, is like they kind of realize, I think, just how much they really like you, and it kind of shakes something into them of like, oh, now I have to make a move. But I think it's until this person has that realization that they're going to actually move. I think until then, they're kind of still stuck where they are. But I don't think there's anything you can do about this. I think it's something that they need to come to on their own. Well, let's see. What's a card to show how you're feeling about this person? Ooh, the King of Pentacles. Okay, so I feel like you see this person as someone who is very, they kind of just have it all in a sense. I feel like this is someone who is really secure in many ways. Like, I feel like materially they're very secure. Like, they might own their own home, or they might just be very financially stable or like financially wise. And I feel like they are someone who's kind of grounded in their body. Like, you can just tell that they feel really comfortable with themselves. And I feel like they kind of have a really good sense of what they're doing in their career, whether this is in execution or just in planning. But I feel like this is someone who is really kind of like the boss of their own life, is what I'm getting. And I think that you admire this person a lot. This is someone you really almost aspire to be a little bit more like. But I feel like this feeling does go both ways. Like, I think you inspire them in certain ways too. But I feel like specifically in this feeling of stability and power, that's something that is really attractive. All right, we have the Nine of Cups. So again, this is this feeling of someone who kind of has it all, of like, it's almost like you're surprised by how much they have, in a sense of like, maybe every time you talk to them, it's like they're unveiling a new skill that they had, or this new ability, and you're kind of impressed with just how much they can do and how much knowledge that they have on so many different topics. And I feel like this person could be a little bit smug about it. If you see the face of this figure here, I feel like they could be like almost a know-it-all is what I'm getting. But I think that this is something that you find very attractive. Of like, oh, this person actually does know it all. They're not necessarily just posturing of like, oh, I'm so smart. It's more like you talk to them and you realize, oh, this person is very intelligent on a wide range of topics, but they're not necessarily gloating about it per se. But I think that they do know that they're smart for sure. Alright, let's draw a card to maybe represent kind of where you're at right now. Oh, alright, we have the Six of Cups. Okay, so I feel like you are kind of in this really youthful, kind of joyful feeling. And as you can see, there's the male figure, there's a child, and he's offering the little girl a flower in a cup. And I feel like this is kind of where you're at. It's like you kind of want this really innocent, loving courtship where, yeah, you just want to be given flowers essentially. And I think this could be literal. I think you could literally want to receive flowers from this person. But I also feel like there's just the sense of wanting a really joyful and fun connection with this person that's really based in this, yeah, just like an innocent, loving feeling where you're not really interested too much in these complicated games of playing hard to get, or like anything so dramatic, or yeah, like I think you kind of just want a little bit of like a straightforward, like I like you and you like me. The sense that I'm getting with this person. And especially if you did kind of have a little bit of a hot and cold thing going on in the past, or if this was a crush where you weren't sure what their feelings about you were, or yeah, like this feeling of like, do they like me? I feel like you're kind of over that and you just want to know, like, straight up, you and me, can it be the same feeling going both ways? Ooh, the Magician. Okay, I feel like you might be maybe casting some love spells on this person, or maybe you cast a spell on them when you first met them, where I think that they are really intrigued by something about you. Is like maybe you just have this kind of esoteric knowledge or kind of a mystical demeanor, and I feel like this is something that they're very attracted to, where I feel like I mentioned, they have a lot of knowledge on different subjects that, you know, it could be like a little bit more of like an intellectual knowledge, but I feel like you almost have this kind of more intuitive knowledge about the magical side of things. And because your intuition is so strong, you could end up setting up these situations where it really does feel like magic, where things just kind of work out in this strange way, and especially when you're together, where it's almost like, yeah, you kind of lead them down this path where it suddenly feels like things are getting magical. Just the places that you end up going, or certain predictions that you might have. And it just feels like things really work out when you're together. And I feel like this is coming from you and the motivating power of your intuition, or maybe certain magical things that you're doing, of like maybe you are making some sort of affirmations or some sort of manifestation in regard to this relationship that I think is guiding it down the pathway that you desire, or that maybe you think is ideal for a relationship. And I feel like because you are doing these practices, I think it's coming to fruition in the real world. All right, we have the Queen of Pentacles. Oh, wow, so we have the counterparts. So we have both the King of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles. And this is coming out with the King in your person's energy and the Queen of Pentacles in your energy. And so this is a really wonderful feeling of like you're each other's counterparts in a way where, you know, everything I said about the King of Pentacles is quite true for you as well. I feel like you're someone who is very secure. You're in a place in your life where I feel like there's not that many material concerns that you have. I get the sense that you really feel like you have it all. And I feel like romance is just the cherry on top for you. It's not like you're chasing things to like avoid the fact that you're not so certain about your career or anything like that. It's more like you kind of know what you're doing and you feel like you're on the right path, but it would be nice to have a person to share this with. But it's not like you need a partner because you're trying to defer like what you want to do with your life. I think you already have that figured out. And I think that this is not someone you're looking to provide a roof over your head or financial support or anything like that. I feel like you're in your bag, like you're good. but it would be nice to have someone to spend your money with. So I feel like there is a strong feeling of just wanting to cultivate something together. Like when you're together, your garden grows, is what I'm getting. And I feel like you kind of do just want to, yeah, have this feeling of being in a garden together and, reaping your harvest. So I feel like this is someone where you really want to build something with them. It's like you could see them as being a really effective business person, where it could be like you want to build a business together, or it could just be like you want to like bounce ideas off of each other or support each other in your respective businesses, where I feel like this person could give you a lot of good advice and a lot of good support, and likewise you could do the same things where maybe there's some aspect in your careers or in your businesses where you complement each other very well, so that you kind of see their blind spots and they see yours, and this brings you to the next level in both of your endeavors, where you're both just thriving, maybe in parallel more so than directing your energies into the exact same thing. But I think as this person grows, so too do you grow, and it goes both ways. It's not this feeling of one person outpacing the other in any way. Ooh, justice. Okay, I feel like this is very similar to what I was talking about, is this feeling of like balance, and I think that there is like a feeling of honesty and, yeah, like justice in this relationship. Is like I don't think that there's any feelings of like this isn't fair, or maybe you've had that in previous relationships where just this person might have treated you unfairly, or you felt like you were getting the short end of the stick in a relationship. That's definitely what I'm getting, is like there was just something that was a little bit disadvantageous to you in maybe a previous relationship or in previous relationships, where it felt like maybe you were giving too much, or you were putting in a lot more of the work to make this relationship work, or there was something about the relationship where the other person was benefiting a lot from the relationship, but maybe you were giving away a little bit, or you were just not being given to in the same way. But I feel like in this new relationship with this person, there is this feeling of like I think this person has a very strong sense of justice, so they're able to perceive when there's an imbalance in a relationship. And maybe previous partners couldn't see this imbalance, or they saw the imbalance and they were willing to take advantage of it. But I think that this new person that you're thinking of right now is someone who is very balanced and very just. All right, let's pull some cards on like what's gonna happen when you guys see each other next, or like how is that gonna happen. Ooh, the Empress. Ooh, very fertile card here. So I get the sense that, maybe you could be meeting each other in the spring, or somewhere where it's like, yeah, like in a garden of some sorts. Maybe you have a date at a botanical garden. But I feel like there is this sense of being outdoors together. So I mean, you might run into each other on the street or something like that. And I feel like it's going to be this kind of really calm and gentle encounter. Like, I feel like this whole spread is bringing up a lot of feelings of just peace and harmony between the two of you, and within yourself as well. Like, I feel like even if you have a really strong crush on this person, when you see them, it's not going to be like you're so unsettled and freaked out and nervous. I feel like you're going to be really in this calm Empress energy of like, you know what? I am thriving in my own nature, and like you don't have to put on an act or be someone else. You're so comfortable in yourself, and this is, I think, what is very attractive about you, and what will really make this dynamic flourish, is that, yeah, you're comfortable with your own nature, and I think that this person is too, in a way, and that's kind of maybe why your energies work well together, is you really express truthfully who you are, and you don't hide or disguise that in any way. And by doing this, you bring a lot more power to expressing your true nature, because you're working in accordance with how things should be. You're not working against your natural way of being, you're flowing with it. All right, we have the Page of Pentacles, another pentacle coming out here. So I feel like there is something of being offered something, of like, there's someone who is putting something out, like maybe putting out a little bit of bait, and it's almost hovering in a sense, where I feel like there's kind of an open between the two of you, where I feel like, yeah, like the book is open, the chapter is not yet closed, where I feel like if you have a crush on this person, I feel like either they're a little bit aware of it, or they kind of know that you're available romantically, or if this was someone you were maybe seeing in the past, I feel like there was that kind of hanging note of like there is the possibility that things could continue. I don't feel like it's completely like either one of you is going to be shocked when the other reaches out. I feel like it's going to be more like a feeling of, yeah, I think both of you know that the other person is an option for you, but it's more about just letting it develop to the next stage. And I think this whole spread is really giving something of just waiting and letting this grow. It's not necessarily something you need to rush or be worried about if it's not developing right now. And of course, this is something very difficult. If you have these romantic feelings for someone, definitely you want it to happen now. And I feel like there might be a little bit of pining involved, of, yeah, like getting a little bit frustrated with it. But this frustration just alienates you from your true nature, which is the most important part of this connection. Of just when you learn to be at peace with yourself, and remember, like I said, you're very secure, right? You don't need anyone or anything. This is just the cherry on top for you. That when you get rid of all those feelings of like needing to rush something or feeling like I don't have enough or I'm not enough because I don't have this romantic relationship, that takes you away from the thing that makes you so attractive and alluring and magnetic, which is the fact that you're really comfortable being yourself and being with yourself, right? Because if you're someone who always needs other people around, that is someone who is not necessarily so comfortable being themselves. Because if you're really comfortable with it, then you can be entertained by your own presence. You don't necessarily need anyone else. And like, you could be a little bit of an extrovert, and that social need could be important to you. But I think at the same time, there is this feeling that being alone at times is really important, because even if you're on the more extroverted side, yeah, if you just can't stand your own presence, then there's something a little bit going on there where you might need to work on it. And I feel like this feeling of like getting really in touch with who you are when you're by yourself and this true nature is of extreme value to this thriving connection. All right, let's pull a card on what the future of this relationship might look like. Ooh, okay, we have the Six of Swords here, and this is a feeling of moving on into new beginnings. And I always mention this card, it's like a man taking his family onto new shores. So I get the sense that, like, when this relationship reaches its peak or like really develops into the next stage, it's almost like you're moving on together and you're kind of like packing everything up. And maybe you could be moving in together, you could be moving to a different city together, or just this feeling of like, now that you have each other, you kind of don't need anything else in the world. And I'm not saying you should forsake all your other relationships and ties or anything like that, but I think that this is the type of really strong connection where it becomes like family, where it is this feeling of like, as long as we have each other, it doesn't really matter where we go, and so that we could just pack up and move on to new shores. Maybe you don't even necessarily have to do that in reality, but at least there's this energy of like, no matter where we are, as long as we're together, it's gonna be we're gonna feel safe and be having a good time. But I really feel like this person is someone who could be like a little bit of a leader in some ways. And I feel like you also have a very complementary leadership ability. But I feel like in some ways maybe you defer to this person a little bit, where you kind of might be wanting them to make the next move rather than you having to reach out and do it. Because I do get the feeling that, like I mentioned, is you're someone who is able to kind of sit with yourself and really work on kind of marinating in that feeling of being yourself and enjoying your own company. And I feel like you want someone to look at this beautiful garden that you've cultivated, this kind of perfect picture of who you are, and want to be led into the garden and be like, yeah, I want a little bit of that. It's kind of what you're waiting for. You don't necessarily want to go out and convince someone to be with you. It's like you just want them to see you as you are in your fullest expression of your true self, and just be so wildly attracted to that they want to be let into your world. So I feel like this is someone who, yeah, they have a little bit of like a playing the lead role, as the role of driving forwards a little bit in this romance. All right. Oh, we have the Ten of Swords. I feel like this is a little bit of left field. This is kind of a bit of a confusing card in this reading because we've been getting a lot of very peaceful, gentle cards with a lot of bright colors, a lot of the bright yellow in this, almost every card. So what could this be meaning? Let's clarify. Ooh, okay, we've got the Page of Swords. So we've got 3 swords coming out in a row here of the 6 of Swords, and the 10 of Swords, and the Page of Swords. So I feel like this is almost representing also like a little bit of a pattern or like a progression here, where I feel like, so this came first, so maybe there was this feeling of moving on to new shores, and this could have been, you could have done this together, or it could have been more like you both had your respective journey of moving on to new shores. Then I feel like what happened was this feeling of like heartbreak or just pain going on here, where maybe there was this difficult feeling of having left things behind or being wounded in the past in some way. And I feel like this could be kind of like the current situation right now. So like the past is that you both respectively left things behind. And the present is that I think you're both feeling a little bit wounded. And I think that's why this relationship is sitting in the stage of like not being fully realized, is that I think you're both working through a lot of wounds that you have right now. And I think you're kind of realizing that in order to be together, all these wounds have to be healed. Where I think maybe you were able to exist in relationships previously where there were still these open wounds relating to just your value or your sense of self, or relationship wounds, or wounds relating to like mother wound, father wound, and this sort of thing, like relationships with the opposite sex or with the same sex. Just these really things that really influence how you relate to other people. And I think in the past, because your relationships didn't really have the sense of justice, it was okay that these wounds existed, where, you know, these wounds might have caused other people to hurt you, or maybe even cause you to hurt other people, or just build this kind of toxic, unhealthy dynamic that I think you were able to exist in the past, because maybe it was what you knew, or you just didn't know better, and you just were comfortable in it in a way, just because you didn't know how much that was hurting you. And I feel like now you're understanding that to have this really healthy, joyful connection with this person, these wounds can't exist anymore. So you need to see them in their fullest and heal them. Where if there was some feeling of like, you know, kind of pushing things to the side or ignoring your problems, I think they're all coming to light now, that you're understanding that you want to be seen in the fullest way. You want this person to know all of you, and you want to know all of them. That you really have to get through all the stuff that you might have been pushing away. And I think the result of that is just this pain. Just you're fully seeing all your wounds now, where, like I mentioned, is you were kind of pushing them away or turning a blind eye to them. But now that you understand that you have to heal them all, you have to look directly into them. And this is this feeling of looking right into the darkness and understanding all the pain and really processing all the pain. So I feel like it could be this really difficult experience at first, because it is kind of like this rush of all the stuff that you have to deal with at once. And I think this is why there is this feeling of stillness or patience that's required in the relationship, is because you both need time to heal from these things and become the version of yourself that can fall in love with this other person. And likewise, this person needs to become the version of themselves that is like the highest realized potential, in order for you to both have the highest realized potential in your relationship. And then I think the future of this is the Page of Swords, and this is a feeling of like lightness, and just like this feeling of, imagine if you had walked onto this new planet or this new country that was just this expanse where you could build anything you wanted and it was all yours to claim. So I get the sense that this is a feeling of like you're breaking new ground in a sense, especially when it comes to romance and relationships, of like not understanding that you can build things from the ground up and have them be really healthy and have them be this like wonderful, just perfect for you, right? Like instead of having to move into an old house where there's no insulation and the breaker flips and it's so freezing cold, you could build a house from the beginning where you make the walls nice and thick and nice and cozy and built to withstand the climate of the country that the house was built in. Right, and then we have the Ace of Pentacles. Oh my gosh, so many pentacles are coming out. So I feel like this is a return back to like a little bit of this previous energy we were talking about here. There is something, yeah, I think there's gonna be a new beginning in the next communication that you have. I feel like you're almost going to be talking to each other in a different way than you had previously. Where I think in the past, like I mentioned, you might have, you know, had the kind of beginning stages of a relationship or like a little bit of a crush on this person where you couldn't really be fully open, or you were kind of hesitant because you didn't know if there was romantic potential in this connection. But I feel like you're starting to realize, like, and like I mentioned, this person is having a little bit of a realization on their own about like how much they like you, and this this Ace of Swords like wanting to come towards you in a sense. But then I think maybe you're also starting to realize, like, okay, I think that I need to talk to this person in a different way if I want them to see the full extent of my feelings as well. And so I feel like it's just this more subtle shift. I don't necessarily think it's a grand declaration of love, though if you feel that that is appropriate, all power to you. A declaration of love can be very fun sometimes. But I get the sense it's more like a subtle shift of like maybe before, if you're talking to this person like you would have spoken to anyone else, I think now you're starting to shift into a way of talking to them that might be just a little bit more romantic or a little bit more flirtatious, just so that they understand exactly where you stand with them as well. Like it's this mutual feeling of yeah, wanting to be on the same page for sure. Alright, let's draw a few cards about what you can kind of do in this downtime while you're waiting for things to progress naturally. Ooh, the King of Cups. Okay, so I feel like there could be this feeling of maybe taking inventory on all the things that you're feeling right now. Where I feel like if you are feeling like a crush towards this person, or maybe some really complicated feelings towards a romantic situation that had kind of changed over time, I feel like it's important for you to just speak this truth about what these feelings are and not keep them bottled up, right? Because when you keep them bottled up, this when things turn to this feeling of anxiety of like something needs to change, or maybe feelings of resentment, or just being upset about this connection because it's not going the way you want. But once you start voicing those emotions in a really healthy and productive way, and then it's more like you can get some value out of what you're feeling, right? Because these emotions that you're feeling are very important, and you shouldn't let them cause physical pain to you. Like if you are feeling a lot of emotions, it could be like really heavy in your chest or in your stomach, and you shouldn't let that be the outcome of your emotions. You should channel it into something that could be really illuminating for you. So something like journaling about what you're feeling could really show you just like a different side of what you were feeling, like you didn't maybe understand the full extent of these emotions, and it just illuminates new things about how you feel emotions, which is really beneficial to you. Or it could be turning it into some sort of creative project where, you know, maybe if you're having conversations with this person in your head, which is a very common thing that a lot of people do when they have a crush on someone, is like, you know, don't just sit there ruminating and running through the script over and over and thinking about like what would they say, and you know, this empty fantasy. How about you try writing an actual script for a romance movie? Because, you know, I do the same thing, I will admit. And sometimes there's a line that these characters in my head say where I'm like, damn, that's good. Then I'm like, wait, why isn't this, like, why aren't I turning this into a script? Like, if you have the feeling there, you know, you should direct it into something that could be of value to the world, right? Because then you could share this with other people, and you know, it could also be like a fun way of speaking your truth, where like if you have these really complicated feelings towards this person that you can't necessarily tell them, and you know, keeping it bottled up is kind of tough for you, you know, it could be fun to share your story with the world. And you know, it could feel like there's a little bit of invasion of privacy here. You know, this is your own discretion that you need to figure out, okay? Whether you think this person be okay with you sharing your story or not. You know, if you feel like this is going to make the connection, you know, some conflict in it, then don't do that, okay? But I think if you get the sense that, you know, this person might understand that most art is based off of the creator's personal experience, then maybe they might almost feel flattered by it, or they might really enjoy seeing it too. Or like maybe if you're not super close right now, this could be something that brings you closer together, because they might get a stronger understanding of how you're feeling or what you're looking for out of romance, and just like whether or not you're compatible. All right. Ooh, the Tower. Okay, I feel like this could be a really good time to take inventory again, like I mentioned, on just like things that you have upheld in your life where maybe if you have upheld a certain way of being in romantic relationships or certain beliefs about how relationships can go, I feel like now is the time to just switch things up a little bit and understand that you want to start fresh with this person. Like I mentioned, there's this expansive plane where you're building something unlike anything you've experienced and unlike anything that has been toxic or unpleasant for you. It's something really fresh that you're creating from yourself, from your unique perspective of what you want out of a relationship. So for that to happen, you need to burn all the towers down to the ground. You're not building on previous patterns of relationships that you've had in the past, and you're not building on some sort of other person's idea of like, this is what a relationship should look like something you've seen in the media or something you've been told by your parents. Like, forget about that and think about, what do I really want my relationship to look like, out of my daily experience for the rest of my life, if this is that sort of connection. Or maybe, if it's temporary, that's your choice. I'm a little bit of a hopeless romantic. I kind of believe in riding away into the sunset together. And I get the sense that is kind of the vibe I'm getting from the spread, it's in the cards. That like, if you really, want to get what you want out of this, you can have what you want out of romance. Like, it's out there for you, believe. That you need to start from scratch and just, really build things from the ground up, and don't expect things to go a certain way, right? Like, this is kind of what, like, can really hurt a connection, is when you have like an expectation of like practically what is going to happen. Like I mentioned, is like, you should have expectations of what things are going to look like in general, like that this person is going to be able to have open conversations about feelings together, that there is not going to be any sense of conflict, that you will spend quality time together, that is something that you both enjoy doing, and could maybe just maybe there's an element of sobriety involved, like you just spend time with each other and that is fun. Right, you can kind of say that those things are expectations that you have, but release the expectations of like, this person is going to do XYZ right away in this courtship experience, right? Where like, if you're expecting a text at a certain point in time, like you're setting a date in your head of like, they're going to text me by then, forget it, okay? That's especially as Valentine's Day approaches. Okay, don't expect a Valentine's Day text, even if you are harboring strong feelings of romantic affection towards this person. Just release the expectation, because that is it, the tower is going to fall, okay? Don't set yourself up with expectations like that, or don't think like, imagine that this person is going to show up at your door with flowers or anything like that. This could be something that could happen further down the line, but I'm getting the sense that at this certain stage in your relationship, the next thing that's going to come out of this is like, it's going to be like something kind of small. Like, it's going to be a little bit casual, of like just a conversation. I think that this is something that you should look forward to, but also don't have any expectations of like how this is going to go exactly. Like, kind of just an open mind is really the sense that I'm getting. Cultivating an open mind to however this connection may develop, and understanding that these connections often take years to grow. It's not necessarily something that just goes from point A to point Z, right? Like, there's all these little things in between, and having this open mind of like what all these things in between could be, instead of trying to jump straight to the end point. Alright, let's draw one more card about general feelings you might be having right now. Ooh, the Knight of Wands. Okay, so I think that there is this feeling of like being held up a little bit. Yeah, like there is just this sense of something being postponed or something being on hold. Like, even from the beginning, I'm not going to be able to find these cards, but there is this feeling of just like, oh, the Knight of Pentacles there, and the Knight of Wands. It's almost kind of a similar energy, where the Knight of Pentacles is just standing stock still, and then Knight of Wands is kind of rearing up, but still kind of, yeah, not really moving. So I get the sense that you are just in the state of understanding that nothing is going to happen right now, right? Patience is of the highest virtue at the moment, right? You're just in your Empress energy, just enjoying your own company and preparing for this next stage in the relationship in whatever way it may develop, in a way that you might not be able to predict, but keeping a very open and optimistic mind about how the future of this relationship will go. And just being very warm and open to the concept of romantic love, but without any of these feelings of frustration when it doesn't quite go the way that you were picturing, because it's also important to remember that this person has their own expectations of how romantic love might go, and they also have their own hang-ups from previous relationships or things that they've been told from their parents. So there is this feeling of like a little bit of just like a don't expect too much and be disappointed when your expectations are not quite met, because it's important to have a really strong vision of what you want, but it's this process of trial and error to get there, right? It's like I mentioned, you should have a strong vision of what you want your relationship to look like on a daily basis or like a long-term kind of lifelong thing. But this is something that needs to be built up over time through communication, right? This person is not going to be able to read your mind or know exactly how to do that for you. I think you will be like-minded in some ways, of wanting the same things in common, but like I mentioned, how you get there is this really long winding path that is going to take a lot of time, and it's going to be something you have to build collaboratively. So don't expect everyone to get things right off the bat. And I think, as you give this person that grace, I think they're going to give you the same grace of like understanding that, sometimes we make mistakes, or maybe it's not necessarily a mistake, but it's just we gotta try and try again until we reach a level of perfection or skill, at least. When it comes to these interpersonal relationships, and it's kind of like throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And you know what? If it didn't work, it's like, it's okay, we'll come back to it and try again a little bit differently. But I think there is this feeling of grace and forgiveness in that, of like, okay, things didn't go so well. Let's just try it again, but do something different this time. Alright, well, I hope that this reading gave you some reassurance, or I hope you enjoyed it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.